Good morning, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. Glad you're joining us. Cloud. Good morning, fellow humans and seekers of wisdom. Well, we made it through another night. We woke up this morning, pulled on our same old personality, and it's August the 4th. August the 4th, 2020. Here in the land of the living. I have some unpleasant news this morning. Many of you know Melanie Moon, our beloved friend at PIMC. She is in the hospital this morning, having yesterday afternoon, while picking fruit, fallen and broken a hip. And Melanie lives she lives kind of on a farm. So she's in good spirits. The pain is bad. Not known yet what will happen after if where she will go when she comes out of the hospital, possibly to Kate Staples' house. But you'll be hearing more as we do our best to support our dear Dharma sister. It's 7:02. The truck is starting behind me. So, fortune changes like the swish of a horse's tail. Jennifer has forbidden me to go on ladders, and I mostly am abiding by it. Maybe I'll be even better at it now. So I'm Robert Beatty. I'm coming to you from Beaverton, Oregon, a suburb of Portland. And this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community, which has many teachers and many ways to practice at this point, and a marvelous website. So, we have this ritual of singing together, of reflecting together on in what can we take refuge. Our mobility, our capacity to walk around the world and take care of ourselves in that way is not a given. Melanie's going to be exploring that one for a while. So what should we take refuge in? Our usual answer is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Being awake. Hang on. Need to mute. Please try to remember to mute your own device. Still there. Mute. Okay. Refuge in the awakeness, which is at the center of our being. Refuge in the Dharma and the way things actually relate to each other, the way things act. And in the Sangha, the community of practice. So I invite you to join me. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. And a poem. It's really a little prose piece. I like to introduce this as a teaching by a great saint of the 20th century. His name was Mr. Rogers. The more I learn about him, the more I admire that man. So he wrote this. I know how important it is to give up our expectations of perfection in any arena of our lives. I know I've tried hard to do this, and yet I know that every once in a while the old pattern emerges. Maybe if I could make at least one proper segment of the program, and I find myself in the trap again. That doesn't mean that we can't produce highly satisfying moments for ourselves and others, but it is important to give up, maybe daily, trying to be perfect. Of course, I think we want it so strongly because we reason that if we are perfect, if we do a perfect job, we'll be perfectly lovable. What a heavy burden. Thank God we don't have to earn every little bit of love that comes our way. I know how important it is to give up our expectations of perfection in any arena of our lives. I know I've tried hard to do this, and yet I know that every once in a while the old pattern emerges. This is a quote. Maybe if I could make at least one proper segment of the program, and I find myself in the trap again. That doesn't mean that we can't produce highly satisfying moments for ourselves and others, but it is important to give up, maybe daily, trying to be perfect. Of course, I think we want it so strongly because we reason that if we are perfect, if we do a perfect job, we will be perfectly lovable. What a heavy burden. Thank God we don't have to earn every little bit of love that comes our way. So let us do our practice of self-acceptance, of self-exploration. Let us fire up the third eye, the capacity of looking inward. Perhaps let's take a moment to reflect on the ways that you feel imperfect, the ways the mind is conditioned to judge you. And we don't need to get rid of that. We can't. But we can come to a very different relationship with it. It's the very same relationship we develop with all the wandering minds, with all the emotions. As we do the extraordinary practice of sitting, mindfully awake to in-breathing and out-breathing. There's a world of difference between there is breathing and I am breathing. And so we take up the practice of coming home to the very beginning of a breath, the rising of the breath, the rising of the chest and abdomen, actually, or the sensations that occur with the rising of chest and abdomen. Or we can observe the sensations at the nostrils as the air comes and goes. Sounds come into being out of nowhere and then disappear. There is a distinct intentionality about coming home to the breath. There are terms for it in Pali that translate to initial application. The mind is wandering, and then there is the intention to apply concentration and awareness to the sensations of breathing. And then there's sustained application, which is a willingness to continue a slight, beautiful, non-striving effort to remain there with the coming and going of the breath. There is an initial application to intend being mindful and then persisting. So in a certain way, our sitting is rather active in a quiet, receptive sort of way. to meditate, to sit quietly and observe, is to embrace our imperfection. It is to embrace the truth of impermanence, the impermanence of our very presence here, the impermanence of thoughts, of emotions, of concentration and mindfulness. To practice in this way is to recognize that starting over is the nature of these lives. We put structures in place and then they crumble. Breathing in and breathing out. More accurately, sensations arising and passing. perhaps the mind is very calm and tranquil this morning. Or perhaps it's restless and agitated. Perhaps there's a wanting, maybe an intense obsession about wanting something or not wanting something, pushing against something. Perhaps the mind dives into anywhere that you address it. So that each breath becomes a long event. Or maybe it's difficult to get the mind to stick anywhere. Perhaps there's sleepy dullness. Or maybe the mind is crystalline and every sound, every thought, every sensation in the body is precise somehow. In the words of Ajahn Chah, great Thai master of the last century, whenever you wish to bring your practice into perfect balance, just remember, this moment is like this. With a moment of suchness, a moment of thisness. There's nowhere to get to other than right here.
Mayor Robert Garcia of Long Beach, California.
Sounds come, have their impact on physiology. A little startle. And then they're gone. And then the body takes a little while to normalize itself. These bodies are frightfully sensitive, remarkably sensitive. In fact, they're nothing but sensitive. So we assume that place, that posture, that attitude of I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in each moment. Sometimes the mind will get very quiet. And the longer you practice, the more days, weeks, months, years we devote some time every day to going inward, relinquishing attachment to things, then more often it happens that the mind goes very quiet. Thoughts become infrequent, not very strong. Anywhere in the body where you place attention, there's tingling, vibrating life. Sometimes this vibration in the body can become very pleasant, subtle. And there's a certain joy or delight that arises from inside. And then we can take that as our meditation object. And also when the mind is very still, not through coercion, but just through ease, through the 7 enlightenment factors ripening, we could float in a simple question, which is implied all the time, which is anything here permanent? And this isn't an intention to open the door to lots of thinking. It's not about thinking. It's a bit like an astronomer peering into the night sky and asking herself, himself, themself, is anything permanent? Or one could ask the question, where is myself in this? Who am I? And whatever the case, in terms of a mind that's wild and a mind that's tranquil, this moment is like this. Embracing our imperfection. Maybe there's some way you're holding a grudge against somebody or somebody's, or maybe your anxiety takes off and you wind up following it all day. Very normal human relationships in life. Noticing how we have our ideals and we have reality. And taking yourself as the object of intention. Wish yourself well. May I be happy. May I today be accepting of my frailties and my limitations. Or if you'd like to make it a you could imagine it as the Buddha's voice, Kuan Yin's voice, a message from the great archetypes of wholeness and love. May you be happy. May you be accepting of yourself all day today. Accepting even of the unacceptingness, the judgmentalness. May you be free from fear and danger, inner and outer. May you live with ease and grace. May you be liberated. And let's extend this same beautiful, healing, loving energy outwards to someone who you love very easily. May this person be free from fear and danger. May they live with ease and grace. May their relationships go well. May they be liberated. And now on the in-breath, wishing yourself well, and on the out-breath, in all directions, may all beings may our friends of the air, the great condors and eagles and chickadees, robins and bluebirds, and orioles, the common sparrow. May all of our friends of the air come to awaken to their true nature. And the same for our friends who live in the trees, who burrow in the trees, who live on the ground, who live under the ground. Resting back into the beauty of your being, which is the entirety of this incredible, amazing earth. May all beings everywhere, regardless of distinction, benefit from the merits of our practice. Please now notice that the body is alive. Bring awareness into the face and the eyes. And when you're ready, making the effort to open the eyes, pull back the eyelids, and participate in the seeing world. And your seeing might be very acute or might be very blurry. It might be just light. But there's a change when you open your eyes. If your seeing is clear, you will discover before you. The beauty of friends who rise in the morning to come together to meditate, to set in motion something really beautiful for the day. A willingness to accept things as they are, and particularly to accept our own frailties and failures. I'm giggling because I keep censoring this statement, which is way back almost 50 years ago when I started meditating. I anticipated to be really, really clear-headed and never confused and really have it together by now. And it turns out that something's changed radically, profoundly, but it's still work being a human being. It's still work. I will let you know more about Melanie via the email list, and I don't know whether we'll have a Caring Bridge site or not. It was Melanie who took the reins of communicating with the community for me when I was so sick with my brain surgery last year, so I think I'm going to return the favor. So I have shameless self-promotion. Come and read the book, Mindfulness for a Happy Life. New Teachings of an Old Tradition for Today's World by Robert Beatty with Laura Musicensky. I'm negotiating with a fellow at a recording studio to go in and read it. And 2 years ago, I won a guitar, a very beautiful handmade guitar, at Winterfolk concert. It was a raffle, and it came with 8 hours of recording time at a very fancy recording studio. So I'm trying to figure out when to do that. I have one other little announcement thing. It's actually if I can find it, here it is. And if it works, sharing. Oh, there. So we have here, thanks to Molly and Gregory, the weekly digest, and here we have a plethora. Friday Reflections with Kate Staples, starting on August the 14th. And then we have Sunday Insight and Metta, 2 Sundays a month with Candle Summers. And then fall classes. Robert Beatty will be teaching the Eightfold Path of the Buddha, my favorite. And there will be a skillful speech class with Doyle Banks. And Doug Pullen is going to do basics of mindfulness. And what's down here? Oh, and then there's all our meditation groups that we're doing now. And so on. There's Jim with his half-day Qigong. Look at the length of this thing. It's kind of amazing. So, lots happening. And of course, our capacity to keep PIMC going depends upon our understanding of the truth of generosity, of dana, as a way of life. And so you are invited to visit the website and find the donation link, and ideally to make a monthly contribution, which makes things very stable. As we keep this beautiful organization running, which even during the pandemic is doing so much good, and before long we'll be getting back in there, I trust. I have not abandoned the notion of having a 60-person gathering in the backyard. I'm not sure exactly when that'll happen, but perhaps in the next couple of weeks. So, what's up with you? I invite you, if you wish to speak, to unmute yourself and speak. Speaking from the heart, speaking what's true. Safe from crosstalk and evaluation.
Robert, this is Jim. I wanted to talk a little bit about the poem or the prose you read today, and about the expectation that he had for perfection. And I've got a question related to that, which is expectations of relationships with other people. If that sort of is the desire problem of the hindrances, for instance, expecting a marriage to be a certain way, expecting a son or daughter to act a certain way towards you, expecting a certain kind of extended family structure and get together, and not seeing those things happening and suffering from it. Is that sort of the desire hindrance, or is that something completely different?
I think it's both desire and aversion. I want it to be a certain way. I want my family to look like the Norman Rockwell paintings, or maybe Leave It to Beaver or something like that. I want it to be harmonious and everybody to get along, and my kids to get along and all that. And I want everybody to be healthy as well. And then it's not going that way, and I don't like it. In fact, maybe I hate it. If they would just stop that, they've been fighting for 30 years. If they would just not bring that to Thanksgiving dinner, but it's always there until we give up to men. Sorry, Jim, what did you say?
Well, it's so much work trying to get other people to change to fit you. It's a lot of work, and maybe it works out, but when it doesn't work out, it's certainly a suffering
for all concerned. That's where the "it's like this" comes in. I'm remembering Thanksgivings from years ago, my first marriage. My mother-in-law, a blessed human being, her name was Joan McLaughlin. We remained really good friends till her death. Her brother, George, they were both very deaf. And they would sit in the living room and they would shout at each other. They weren't fighting, but it sure as hell sounded like fighting. And everyone would increase their volume, and then there would be conflict between people. And I used to, I used to gain good husband points, but I'd go out in the kitchen and wash dishes, and I could see them through a window in front of the sink. But I would be out there and I just practice. Here I am, putting a dish in the dishwasher, turning, bringing this, because it was so difficult. And then how many events have been really difficult? The events following divorce, who's where for dinner, and it's always a mess in my experience. So what's the word? You can summarize the teachings very effectively with how do you handle disappointment? Because we can be quite content despite the fact that things around us are really not going well. When we realize that's just the nature of the beast. Is that addressing what you were asking?
Yes, it is. It's a very good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is the foundation of the teachings, the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering. There's a cause of suffering, and it's the mind's incessant, almost, wanting things to be different. I want more pleasure. I want more ease. I want less pain. I want less displeasure. And since this moment isn't very good, I want to be in the next moment. I want to be down over there. And then through the teachings say, and I believe it to be true, that by embracing the reality of the dukkha and the cause of the dukkha, which is this demandingness, then there is nirvana and there is relief. But the relief is you look like a ghost, Jim. It's quite interesting.
Oh, the sun.
There is relief, which is the quenching of the wanting things to be different. I mean, that's the very core of the Buddhist teachings.
Okay.
We will be going into that in great depth in my 9-week class on the Eightfold Path. We'll be circling around that truth again and again and again.
Morning, Robert. It's Janet.
Hello, Janet.
Hi. You started out today saying something like, there is breathing and I am breathing. And I think you said there's a world of difference between the two. And I've been puzzling over that. I'm still puzzling. Can you help me understand?
Let's try a little experiment. Please take your hand and place it up in front of you like this. Now, just maybe, and everybody in the group can try this. Now, just, well, let's do it first. Now, I am moving my hand. I am moving my hand. And just keep saying, I am moving my hand. And just move your hand around. I am moving my hand. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Or just let the hand move without the I. It's just a hand moving. And if you bring, and let's simplify it even further. Take one finger, maybe the index finger, and now notice the intention to let it move, and then let it move. And then the intention is to keep it moving up and down. Does it require I to do this, or can we pay attention, like bare attention it's called, and just be aware of the sensations of this movement? We don't need to be, though we do, we have this internal dialogue of where we're always, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I like this and I don't like that and I. But that I thing is a thought. And that can be observed as a thought. And that's part of the dissection of the self, that when it becomes super clear that that thought is a fantasy, then where's the self? And it's not through some intellectual analysis. It's just the self just fades away. It's not so important. And it happens all day anyway. We completely forget that we're a self, and things are just happening. But then we remember, oh, all right, I'm here, I'm doing this, and I don't like this, and I. So it's just a very simple way of parsing, teasing open the sense of self.
So is it like stepping back and becoming more of an observer?
Yes, I have. I have in my book this drawing. This is the one drawing in the book.
Okay. Yes.
And the thing that this is hanging in the Dharma Hall at PIMC, and you'll notice there's 4 different layers of this, and the ultimate layer are these eyes in the background, and
yeah.
That's the essence of this practice, that there's this backing up into that which knows. And I mean, what's done in many religions and is that, well, that's God in the back. Those are God's eyes. Those are the eyes of the universe, and they're God's. Well, we don't have to go there. That can be a personless, extraordinary awareness, which is here all the time.
Yeah.
And then we add to it a story of I, me, mine, mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I'm fairly new to the Sangha, but I do appreciate everybody here. It's kind of like I feel like I reset myself every morning with this, and it's very helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Robert, this is Jim.
Mr. Dalton.
I just wanted to say how happy I am every time I see that picture. Because that was on your office wall in early 1991. And the minute I saw that, I was hooked. I've never quit coming back to, what is this fellow talking about with the Dharma? That picture just grabbed me and said, you've got to work with this, and you've got to work with this man. And as soon as you opened that book and I saw those, I just started glowing. You had me in 1991. Thank you.
Where was that office in 1991?
Near the, was it the Red Cross building or the?
Oh, okay. On
that
Kelly Street. Yeah.
Kelly Street, right?
That was a nice office. Nice place. Thanks, Jim.
Good morning, Robert. It's Russell.
Russell, hello.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything this morning, except as so often happens, something you said so went into my core that I felt inspired to say something, and that was about limits. As a young boy, I had physical limits from a congenital condition and had several surgeries and a lot of pain and so forth. And then I grew up, so I had limits there. I could not be as athletic as my spirit would have liked. And then I became this tall, very skinny adolescent who felt incredible shame about his body and not being robust and as broad-shouldered and so forth as many of my contemporaries. And over the years, I have found it very hard to accept physical limits, and I've challenged them and pushed them, and in many ways that's been a benefit. But now, as I'm aging, I get daily reminders from this vessel in which I reside that I ain't running the show, and that there's a new limit practically daily. And even now, I go out and do my aerobics and push myself on the climbing the hills that I climb. And again, there is some physical benefit to that, but it's also that not wanting to accept imperfection and limits. So I'm getting there slowly but surely. And I thank you for that highlight, and for speaking about Mr. Rogers. What an amazing human being. So I just wanted to comment on that, and that it would appear that I'm going to have plenty more opportunities to come to terms with limits. And I am grateful for the long life I've had, and the benefits have far outweighed the limits. But there it is. And any comments you have, I would more than welcome.
I find myself thinking of when I had my brain surgery in November, and I've been home maybe. I always get very teary when I think of that time. It was so difficult, and also so amazing. But I came home and I really wanted to rehab myself, and it became, after a few days, a week, maybe 10 days after surgery, one day I bundled myself up and headed off in my walker, with my walker up the street, and slight hill, and it was really a lot of work. It was so hard, and I was glad I didn't have anybody with me, and the sun was low in the west, and I looked over at my shadow, and there was a shadow of this hunched old man with a walker, move the walker, take a step, and it struck me heavily. Oh, this is decay and old age. I am old, and I determined I'm not giving up here. I'm going to stand up. I stood up straight. That was better. I looked over at and then I made it all the way to the top of the hill. I mean, I made it 200 feet to the top of the hill, and then I came back and went and lay down again for days, it seemed. I lost so much muscle mass during that time because I couldn't exercise. And now I have blessedly recovered my capacity to walk up that hill with ease. But it's losing the capacity to function is really hard. And I mean, the Buddha suffering births, sickness, old age, decay, and death. And the old age, decay, and death stuff is really getting realer for me. I know if I'm seeing a physical therapist for my right hip, if I don't do my exercises, it hurts a lot. It's not a matter of, oh, I get more flexible. It's can I keep it going again today so I can do what I want to do? That was not the practice of my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. But here in my 70s, it really is that maintenance. So I think we're in it together, buddy.
Oh, I think so. And as I approach 80, it's a mix, because on the one hand, it's such a wonderful opportunity to practice the teachings
Mm-hmm.
and to live with the increasing limitations. But it's also one hell of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are.
there we are. I am alive.
And I am dying. How come I always get that part of the thing?
It's great.
That's a little in-joke Russell and I have. We were sitting in my hot tub a decade or two ago, and we were chanting, I am alive, I am alive. And then one of us said, and I am dying. It was very funny at the time.
I just have to say a decade or two. How about maybe 4?
Really?
3 anyway.
Jesus.
Sure.
You're getting old, Russell.
I bow to hear you.
Hello.
Hello, Allison. I lost you.
There you go.
There you go.
I wasn't going to say anything, but this time tomorrow I'll be having spine surgery at St. Vincent's. And I am preparing for pain and I've read some about it just early this morning of this concept of saying hello to it and how does it feel. And I've done this before in my life, but like you say, this is all a big experiment in what we do with pain and with change. Like I feel okay this morning. Tomorrow, when I wake up out of surgery, I'm not going to be feeling so well, and I know that they say it will be painful. So. Is that, I guess, just tell me about dealing with that moment and how that is. I know you know that.
Well, I've had such mixed experiences. Part of the shock of the brain surgery was I did not come into consciousness with my heart wide open and loving everyone. I came in really in agony, and that bad medicine that was bad for me. But when a possibility is you might emerge from general anesthetic with your heart as big as the world, and everyone that comes into your sphere, it might be that you are just so filled with love and gratitude that it's an exquisite time, as well as there's that pain which will be in your back, and hopefully well medicated, so that you won't be having to tense up around it, but you'll be able to soften and go bigger and bigger and bigger, which is what I was able to do once I got off that medicine I was allergic to with the brain surgery just opened more and more into it, so that the time in the ICU became really quite bearable, more than bearable. It got to be people kept coming in and taking care of me. It was of course, I could have visitors, and I had family and so on. It'd be different now, but leaning into the pain, leaning into the suffering, and also you can remember to do Tonglen practice, that there are how many thousands or tens of thousands of other people are there in the world who've had a very similar surgery today, and with whom you're in good company, and then you breathe that into the heart and breathe back love.
Oh, that's great. I will try that.
We can feel very isolated and alone in a hospital, and if we just open our hearts a little bit, we realize there are so many people in that same circumstance.
I'm very lucky that Alex will be able to be with me in the room.
Right.
When I get back in the room. But I think that breathing is a great distraction after a while, because you're doing something else and your brain is working in a different way, of being conscious of in and out breaths. So I'm gonna try this and see how I do.
One way to frame it is that you're going on a rather short retreat.
Yeah.
You're going on a several-day retreat.
Yeah.
Into some very interesting and maybe challenging terrain, but that you can go into it with great curiosity.
Thank you so much.
And let's be in touch, okay?
Okay. You'll be getting your new Tough Shed.
That's right. Tomorrow's the day. I have figured out how to use my camera to do a time lapse, so there will be a 2 minute, I hope, video of the Tough Shed appearing and growing like a mushroom in the backyard.
You're so good at that.
Growing like a mushroom?
No.
Oops. Sorry about that, Allison. Allison, I've lost you.
Making things happen with your photography,
Oh,
with your technology. Yeah. You're really good at that.
It turns out there's an app, a surprise, that for my camera doesn't come with it, but I can download an app from the Sony site that will do this very easily. Yeah. So it's, oh my goodness, it's already 12 after 8. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share?
Robert, this is Had. I don't know if I can. I've had a whole range of beautiful thoughts this morning. I'm just so appreciating what we're doing every morning, and I'm appreciating everyone that comes here. What a community we are. And I just want to request, since you're the great controller of everything, would you please spawn this and make this go worldwide? I mean, I'm celebrating pandemic right now. It's like we're on retreat for who knows how long. We've been on retreat for a few months now, and I'm so appreciating what we're doing with this sitting. So thank you, and thank everyone else for getting up this morning and doing this.
Amen. Hooray for Sangha. Anything else anybody wishes or needs to share before we tootle along our way? I go back to trench digging. I need to deepen the trench about another 3 inches, and for half of it. The trench for the power supply. All right, dear friends, let us close with a song. Unmuting all. Here we go. May all beings be happy. all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well, may we all have a wonderful day of being imperfect.
Funny.
Bye.
And thank you one more time, Alicia, for all your work making the Tough Shed happen. It's really, and to everybody for contributing so generously. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
We'll be sending you support, Allison.
Yes.
Yes.
Big hugs, Allison.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, Hannah.
Here we
Thanks,
go.
Alicia. Bye-bye.
Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.
You will be thinking of
Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. Hope you have a wonderful day.